He may show up later. And then there's Tom, right here, probably the closest to Rick. They were best buddies growing up. So that's all 9 of us. And that now we have 4 girls, 5 families, like all big families. The oldest kids took care of them together. So Rick had 4 big brothers and 4 big sisters telling him what to do and how to do it all the time. You wonder why they like people to tell them what to do. People got to do it. And Mom said a lot of things. When he was 6, I was 16, so I was doing a whole lot of other stuff. And she was 30 next to Rick, and she had never met him. And she said she has never laughed so much in her whole life as sitting next to Rick. And so that's what I think about. I just think about laughing and dancing with Rick.
Hi, I'm Patricia. I'm another dancer. Rick called me Patty. I wrote something out because Rick was really special to me. And just like Jeff said, I first remember meeting Rick about 8 years ago at a contra dance, and with the name tag God on. And I immediately knew he was going to be a funny and irreverent guy, my favorite kind. And over time, he became a good friend and one of my favorite dance partners. Always fun to dance with, funny, and a really good dancer, all rolled into one. One night after a dance right here at Norse Hall, a friend of mine and I somehow ended up needing a ride home. Rick volunteered to take us back to my house, but warned us that he only had 1 extra seat. No problem, he said. And when we got to the car, we saw that he was serious. He had removed the back seat. So he managed to rearrange all the junk so that there was room for me to lie down sideways. And that was fine since it was a relatively short trip until I started feeling lightheaded from all the fumes. So Rick accommodated that by rolling down all the windows, which helped greatly except for the fact that it was midwinter. And now everyone was freezing. So after that, I made sure to have my own transportation. Not long after that, I moved and ended up living about 10 blocks from Rick when he had his house in Sellwood. He was very happy to have me in the area and offered to help me with all sorts of electrical and plumbing projects that needed to be done to my 100-year-old home, adding lights to a dingy basement, hooking up an exhaust fan in the attic. And the thing I'll be forever grateful for him to is installing a dishwasher in my kitchen. Anybody that knows me knows how much I love to do dishes. He never wanted any payment for helping me, and as much as I offered, all he would ever accept was an occasional home-cooked meal. He just liked helping his friends. I got to know him better through all the times we spent dancing at the Thursday night waltz. It was always more fun when Rick was there. One of the things I came to learn about him was that he was, shall we say, extremely frugal. One night, he and I decided to go to the early free swing dance at the Secret Society Ballroom. We met up there, but the band was a dud. The dance floor was taken over by a group of little girls playing Ring Around the Rosie, their parents oblivious to the frustrated dancers. We decided to leave to go roller skating instead. But I hadn't had dinner yet and asked if he wanted to grab something to eat before we went to the rink. Sure, he said, there's a 7-Eleven right around the corner. We could go get some hot dogs there. I thought he was joking. I said, yeah, right. He said, no, they're good. I've had them a lot of times. Realizing he was serious, I informed him I was not going to have dinner at 7-Eleven. And the upshot of that was that I went and had dinner on my own, and we met at the roller rink later. Sometimes we had more serious conversations, and he would tell me how much the heat and the sunshine bothered him and how depressed he was in the summer because of that. He liked living in the basements because the light would be dimmer. He also talked about how much he wanted to have a relationship, but how hard it was for him to really let anybody in. I so appreciated his trust in me to talk about these things, as he was normally always joking around. He was a really wonderful guy, so warm, so thoughtful, and so quirky. I valued him as a friend, miss him a lot, and will continue to miss him the rest of my days. The dance community has lost a bright, shining light in losing Rick. It was way too soon.
Now again. And not only that, but he sat there with his cell phone. It was like a kid that had gotten a new cell phone and had to text all the time. Texting. And we felt that he was dissing us. I mean, you can't do that, Rick. Well, he got away with it. He had this charming, self-deprecating smile. And then I found out something. I found out that he grew up with 4 older sisters. And all of a sudden, he came to me, of course, that's what he, being that way, is what he had to survive. I'm about ready to change my mind again, because I find out that he did have 2 or 3 brothers to help him out at times. But somehow I could imagine that. But there was more. There was a lot more to Rick. I lost a bet about Rick involving Nancy. Nick and this was, Nancy had to go to San Francisco, and she didn't have money for an airplane ticket, so she was going to drive. But she didn't consider her car safe enough, and she wasn't quite sure about going by herself, so she started talking to Rick about going with her. And Rick says no, and Rick said maybe, and Rick says, well, maybe if I get around to it. And Nancy seemed like she was getting more and more in a pickle about this. And I sat there, but then finally they took off, and my bet was that when they come back from San Francisco, they're no longer going to be on speaking terms. So Nancy comes back from San Francisco. She was the first one I talked to, and I said, well, so how did it go? Did you 2 fight? Oh yeah. Did you argue? Oh yeah. But here comes Rick, just with his usual charming smile. And so I lost my bet. And Nancy probably noticed my curious look on my face, and then she started laughing, and she said, Rick and I have been best friends for 13 years. Of course we're still talking to each other. And that's when I realized with Rick, if you are his friends, you're his friends for life. Does any of you think it was cold last night? Well, I did too. And the one I remember then was Rick, because my house is not cold. But let me tell you this, I bought this old house in East Portland about 2 years ago, and the furnace didn't work. And the service contractor said $4,000, which I didn't have. Well, after some months, I had $150 to buy a used one. But I had never worked with a gas furnace, and I heard about people blowing themselves and houses up. So I needed some help. So I asked Rick, and I don't know anything. If he knew anything about gas furnaces, no, he didn't know anything about gas furnaces. Somehow I didn't quite understand him, so I pushed him a little more, and I said, come on now, you know more than I do. So could you come and help me? Well, so he agreed to come and look at it at least. Well, it turned out that this furnace was supposed to go into a very narrow closet. The furnace I had purchased was bigger than the old one. And the closet was basically too small. And I mean, a lot of people would have given up then and says, nah, I can't get involved in this. But Rick came back the next day, and then there was a different Rick, totally absorbed in what he was doing. He did excellent work He was really creative about getting this in. And it was quite expensive. We had to tear a hole in the living room floor to get it in. But I got heat. Plenty of heat. And Rick asked me several times afterwards if the furnace still works. Not that it seemed like he was afraid of, that he wouldn't, but he just wanted to make sure that he had done a good job. Then there is something else about Rick that didn't dawn us until really afterwards. It's the way he was to the bridge group, in that he seemed to drift in and out. Well, he still kind of kept the group together. He drifted in and out, but it seemed like it was quite often just to see if we needed a fourth one. And sometimes late at night for us, 9-10ish or so, he'd come back to see, make sure that we didn't sit there, three of us, and couldn't play because we missed the fourth one. That's the kind of friend he was, and that's where we really miss him in the bridge group.
On my front porch, where he twice installed motion sensors and knocked on my door just to say, hey, more times than I can remember. Rick's fingerprints are on my body, not the way you're thinking. On my shoulders and on my hands, and lightly tapping my hip or my back, leading me and joining me in joyful, goofy dance steps that never failed to bring a smile to my face, and surely to others watching us. But when I think of Rick, and the many discussions we had on relationships, the puzzled questions on what makes women tick, the neighbor dropping by for end-of-the-day gin and tonics, and the open offers of help, advice, and support, seeing the comfort he felt in the well-known and the delight he found in the new experience, and sharing the priorities he lived by, valuing friendship, generosity, and joyful experience. I realized that more than any place, Rick's fingerprints are in my heart, where they will stay and inspire and remind me of those important priorities of friendship, generosity, and joyful experience. I know he touched everybody that's here today and left his precious fingerprints in all of your hearts too. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Anderson. Rick is my brother. He's the only one of us that got four names. Richard Alvin Olaf Anderson, named after my grandfather. And every year, my grandfather was a member of the Elks. They'd have a picnic out at Jansen Beach. And there was a big swimming pool, and gosh, we all got $1 to stay. Anybody wanted to. It was
on how to enjoy life, that's for sure. I wanted to emulate his lifestyle that felt I didn't have the knack he did. Thanks for being such a free spirit, Rick. You are truly free now. I envision you on a new adventure on a new dance floor and frolicking in a rolling river somewhere. I send you all my love. Party on, Shorts Rick.
I'm Rick's older sister, and it seems like the family, at least me, I spent most of my life trying to figure my brother out. And at one point, I was in my 40s and Rick was in his 20s. We belonged to the same ski club, the Rick's Brother Ski Club, and we had a multi-club dance at the nightclub. And there was my brother in the ballroom. And he asked me to dance, and it was a flamenco or a tango or something like that. I said, Rick, I do not know how to dance. And he says, oh, just let me lead. And it was the most delightful, wonderful experience. I'll never forget it. And then one other anecdote, Rick was interesting, you know. I always asked him, he was always invited to things, and he came several times with different girls to my home and for dinner. And he would come in shorts. And the last time, he was a nun. And that's always interesting, you know, she answered the door and said, oh, hey, this is my brother. I'm so happy you're here. And, you know, and then we have gin and tonic. I've had that for him. And sat down at the table, and he whips out a scroll just like Santa Claus, and he says, I've got 150 jokes. Really interesting. I think he liked to be entertained, and he liked to be entertaining. And I'll miss him.
And we knew that every year at the Halloween event, he would show up as a nun.
We miss the nun. If there was a nun in the house, that would be really helpful.
The one thing in Tango is it tends to be a little more reserved, and people are more about the feeling and the connection. But whenever I danced with Rick, I knew that we would talk through the entire 3 songs. And he would always tell dirty jokes or ask about my love life, and I would try so hard not to laugh really loud because it disturbs the other people around you. And there at this moment, you're like, ha! And also, you dance really close, and you can feel each other laugh. You can feel the belly laughs. It was such an amazing sensation with him.
When I first danced with him, he had a cheat sheet in his pocket that he would reference, but he was blind, you know, so he had to take his glasses off. Hold the card right here. He was very funny, and I lived at the beach when I started tango, and he came to the beach, which is unheard of for Rick to travel, and to put countertops in for me, and we went for a walk, and the town I lived in was really small, so of course we ran into many people I knew, and I introduced him as my developmentally disabled half-brother. Up the statement with, and we're getting married. You made everybody happy. I'm really, really sad about Rick. I'm going to miss him. That's my plan.
And so we were all dressed up. I think I was trying to be some glamour, you know, Hollywood. Well, we were 15 years younger, you know. And I had this black lace gown on that had a nude colored lining. And of course, he was wearing a dress. And we were dancing, and he said to me, what do you have under there? And I said, nothing. And he said, you shouldn't tell a guy things like that. It was kind of funny because we were both wearing dresses. And the other thing I remember was that when I first got to know him, he would tell me that he was working on his feminine side because he felt like he didn't have that. You know, he felt he was, you know, very unbalanced masculinely, and so he had been going to a holy man to help him figure out his feminine side. And he would tell me some of the things that the holy man, the exercises that he would do. Fortunately, I can't remember any of them. But he did end up helping with my house as well. And I remember, I'm a 1926, like English cottage, and with original electricity. And I remember him disabling the fuse box, and it really scared me because he had one of those maniacal grins on his face, arcing electricity. You know, does he really know what he's doing, or are we going to have, like, you know, no house left with the fire? But yes, he did, and it was fine. It's a lot of fun, and I did make him a pie once. I miss him.
Men really don't talk to each other. We're so focused on who the next partner is going to be on the floor. So at another waterfront festival, again, I approached him and I asked him, a year has passed, have you given any thought to your aging process? And he said, well, you show so much energy when you dance, Tom, that I'm assuming because I have energy, I will be like you. And I told him, these were probably the last words I said to him. I said, don't bother being like me, just continue being like yourself. And this poem that's on that we're given today, the last 3 lines really spoke to me concerning my conversation with him, which is, that dwells beside us on the other side of what we see. And in sitting in my chair today, I realized that that's what he was doing a few years ago with me. He was trying to figure out what's going to go on in the future, which of course none of us know. So I learned a lot about Rick that I didn't know. 2 conversations in 7 years. Thank you.
And I went and danced in Maine and Seattle and Alaska. And I came back a few years ago, and there it was, the same, only a little grayer. And this second time, meeting him, we just had a lot of fun and started to spend more time with each other doing funny things like walking to the theater, or he would send me a text and say, I heard a train, I'm going to jump on my bike and go see it. And he came out and so many stories of him helping people with their houses. Built an outside shower at my house in Corbett. He really wanted to get out to the city, came out, put in his shower, and about 2:30 had brought his own gin and asked me if I could tonic, which I didn't, but had Canadian, whatever, ginger ale, and that was enough. Thank God he brought his own gin because I didn't have any. So a couple snapshots, I'm just going to give you a couple snapshots. One, I heard some of you talking about him questing. He was always asking me questions like this, could I have a sweat lodge in my front yard? I pour water for a sweat lodge, and he told me his holy person was a shaman that he went to once a year, and we talked about that kind of things. And one of the questions he asked me in that seeking place was, because I have 2 daughters, I'm divorced, 2 kids, he said, do you always love them? And I said, I never stopped loving them. And he said, huh? I think I love my cat. All right, that gives me a framework. I know where we stand now. And let's see, a couple other snapshots. I was on my way to see him, to see a movie. We're going to go to a movie. I was in a terrible car accident, which I still have a concussion, but I'm better. That was in May. He came and got me early June before I could drive and took me to the Sandy River, which all you brothers and sisters, he had such great memories of the Sandy River. And all I could do was sit there. I was just sitting there like concussed, smiling. And he was swimming. He was ecstatic. He loved to swim. He'd been telling me we're going to go swimming as soon as I got hot enough, and really I couldn't swim at all. But I sat there happy while he swam. We had plans to float down the river. Maybe some of you have done this with him in his big inner tube that he'd saved. And he loved the river. He loved those memories of those times with your family. So know that. We talked about that a lot. Let's see, a couple other snapshots. Where we'd gone, he took me to salsa dancing on my birthday. I'd never been. And we got kicked out because we had shorts on. I can't believe this girl was kicking me out. I've been to so many dances here. And it was fun. We went blues dancing, and then he talked about how he felt like an old Lex because there were 25-year-old girls on the dance floor, and he just couldn't bring himself to dance with them. And I said, but your fabulous dancers are going to die dancing with you. And he's like, I can't do it. It's too weird. I need somebody over 30. Same problem. Thanks. That's fair. Let's see. A couple other things. He did call his car the cervix. I don't know if any of you knew that. It was in Seattle, what's that big thing called? The boat ride. Yes, that. And I couldn't go this year because I was laying on the couch concussed. And he said, you really want to be here, but you don't want to be sleeping in my car. And then he sent me a picture of a gallon jug of water in the bush that he cleaned himself behind. He was creative and funny and delightful and kind and generous. One of the best dancers of my lifetime. And I miss driving through the neighborhood. Some of you might feel this feeling. I felt like driving through this neighborhood, there was a sense of security, like he was a little angel. He had me with my car all the time. My windshield wiper flew off the day, and he just like duct taped it back together and put it on there. I had to pull during a downpour so I could get home to Corbett at whatever, 11 o'clock at night. I just felt like if I needed him, he would come help me. It didn't matter. And just walking or driving through that neighborhood, I always felt this little angel that he was there. So I was laughing right now, knowing that we're all here and that we love him. So we all loved him, brothers and sisters. He was sweet and kind, and as quirky as he was, he gave us this beautiful self. So, thank you. There's a memorial poem that I've always liked, and I can't even tell you who wrote it to give that person credit, but I took it and bastardized it a little bit, so I'd like to read it. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 cookies sweet. I am the joy of dancing feet. I am the sparkle on morning dew. I am the radiance inside of you. I am the golden sun in the east and west, and I am the shooting stars while you rest. I am the wind that sways the trees. I am the gentle autumn breeze. And when you read a book, or waltz, or sing, or ride your bike, of course naked, or climb a tree, think of that quirky fella. That would be me. And when you see someone lurking in the shadows of the dance, checking out the girls, or see a grown kid skating around Oaks Park Rink doing a twirl, it's just that quirky fella giving it a whirl. And when you glimpse someone in the backyard taking a quick shower with your garden hose, he did that to me, by the way. Or see some man-child stripped down almost to his toes. It's just that quirky fella who never wore many clothes. By the way, why did I take that shower? January. Why did I take that shower? By the way, I had a date and I was late. And when you see a solitary guy hitting tennis balls up Mount Tabor, or hear the mournful sound of the old steam engine down at the railroad later, that would be me, contemplating what this life was all about. Do not stand at my grave and weep, because I'm not there. I never did sleep. And remember the words of the song from Peggy Lee, is that all there is? Then sweet Jesus, let's just go dancing. So, as everybody in this room knows, Rick loved jokes, and at the bridge part, I'm going to tell a joke.
My also had to make an appearance. So Rick always said that Nancy was terrible at telling jokes. He didn't know this, but I'm equally as bad, but I'm going to give it a try. So anyhow, the joke is, I got beat up by a woman the other day. I was in an elevator, and this buxom woman came in, and I'm just really filled, and I'm like staring at her cleavage, And she says to me, "Could you press 1 for me, please?" So of course I did. I don't remember much after that. So I just got a text from Rick. He says he has a date on Angel with somebody he met on Angel.com. And he says we should all stop moping around and start dancing. Are you ready?